Hello and welcome to VCU Insight. I'm Allie Nasta.
And I'm Shelly Andrews. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, the VCU campus is still joining the rest of the nation in expressing shock and disbelief about the bombings in Boston.
As of this broadcast, Boston police say 3 are dead and more than 150 are injured. One of the dead includes an 8-year-old boy. Hours after the blast, President Obama spoke from the White House.
And we reaffirmed that on days like this, there are no Republicans or Democrats. We are Americans united in concern for our fellow citizens.
VCU students say they share in that concern. Just last weekend, Richmond's streets were full with more than 40,000 runners for the UCrop's Monument 10K. John Lugbill from Sport Backers, the group who puts on the race, says we will work with the Richmond Police Department and review security procedures before next year's 10K. He also says that it's too early to have any definite plans. Sports Backers extends his thoughts and prayers to those affected in Boston.
That very same day, artists from around the country were recognized for excellence. Sharon Olds won the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry. She recently visited the University of Richmond for National Poetry Month. Olds is an 8-time award-winning modern American poet who's known for her funny and straightforward poems such as The Father and The Dead and the Living. She won for her collection of poems about the breakup of her marriage. After reading a few poems at U of R, Olds took questions and also gave a few pointers for aspiring poets. Olds ended the night signing books and autographs.
Some critics describe it as modern-day slavery. It's called human trafficking. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, it happens in more than 150 countries and affects children in 20% of the cases. Insight's Charisse Bonnerball shows how area organizations are bringing awareness about human trafficking to VCU and the Richmond community. If you know anyone who is a victim or you suspect trafficking, you can call the Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888.
A 60s fashion trend is bringing awareness to a good cause. The Alpha Epsilon Phi sorority recently hosted its 5th annual Tie-Dye to Save a Life event on the lawn outside Harris Hall on VCU's Monroe Park campus. Dozens of students tie-dyed T-shirts to benefit the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. The sorority says it's already raised more than $1,500, trumping last year's donations. Those donations are helping from a local level, but what about on a global scale? Insight's Trey Herbert is in our Richmond newsroom to tell us about how a far-reaching organization is helping to save lives. Good evening, Trey.
Good evening, Shelly. In some parts of the world, meningitis, cleft lips, and malaria are common childhood conditions. Richmond is the headquarters for a nonprofit that's trying to do something to change that.
The World Pediatric Project recently opened a new cardiac surgery training program in the country of Panama to go along with the other center in the Dominican Republic.
It felt kind of tropical in Richmond earlier this month with record-breaking temperatures of 91 degrees, according to the National Weather Service. The sudden change had everyone breaking out the sunblock and craving cold treats. Richmond's Monroe Park and the VCU campus filled up with people soaking up the beautiful weather and having fun in the sun. The local street vendors also like the heat, like Soul Ice. Weather experts are predicting that temperatures in central Virginia have evened out and should keep feeling more like spring. Summer-like temps aren't the only thing rolling into Richmond. Forget basketball courts. How about a court that will fill your belly? It brings local businesses and your appetite together. Insight's Samar Kawaja has more. Richmond's Food Truck Court will be held every Tuesday and Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. until September in the Virginia Historical Society parking lot just off the North Boulevard next to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts.
Museums aren't the only place to see art. Here in Richmond, it's everywhere. Insight's Alina Sidnor is in the studio with the artist who put spray paint to brick.
According to the U.S. Department of Labor, fewer than 4% of Virginians are employed in environmentally friendly or green jobs. But some local businesses and organizations are trying to raise those numbers. Insight's Hope Lee has the story. River City Cleaning says it hopes to offer environmentally friendly gardening services soon. Richmond's Better Housing Coalition will open more green apartments this June.
There's now an easier way to enjoy the historic attractions of downtown Richmond and neighborhoods like Jackson Ward. Tourists and residents can now walk the 6-mile path dubbed the Liberty Trail by the Greater Richmond Chamber and others. They say they received lots of complaints from residents. 160 volunteers spray-painted markers to help better define the trail with donations from Pleasance Hardware. The Richmond Greater Chamber says it hopes to start a Liberty Trail Foundation and raise money to replace those markers with more permanent ones in the near future.
You may have seen this in videos on YouTube, in particular his cover of the hit Eminem song, Love the Way You Lie. It landed him more than 1.5 million views. He didn't rap the song, he played it on his violin. Insight's Candace Smith is in the studio with the musician who isn't just playing Beethoven.
So earlier we heard you play something for us, so we're just going to take a minute and go back and listen to that real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so that was your new...
April is also Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and VCU police have driven it onto the VCU campus. Insight's Nisi Chisholm has more about how they're literally putting students in the driver's seat. Check out the next Distracted Driving Awareness events on April 24th and then on the 28th through the 30th.
And finally, it was a dark and stormy night.
Or at least that's what it was on the stage for VCU Theater's recent presentation of Sweeney Todd.
Insight's Talisha Williams has the behind-the-curtain look.
According to their website, VCU Theater's next season includes Hairspray and One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
And that's all for this edition of VCU Insight.
Check us out online at insight.vcu.edu.
Thanks for watching. I'm Allie Nasta.
And I'm Shelly Andrews. We leave you with some more sounds from violinist Eric Stanley. Good night, everybody.
Finally tonight, it's not the end of the semester yet, but students are already thinking about how they'll spend their summer. Insight's Shelly Andrews is in our Richmond newsroom with what many consider an exotic option. Shelly, good evening.
Good evening, Samra. Posters like these are showing up all over the VCU campus, encouraging students to pack their bags and study in another country. But it's not about partying in another time zone. Studying abroad has benefits for the real world.